Good morning and welcome to today's Cabinet meeting. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting the public can attend. I'm Ros Jones, Mayor of Doncaster, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's meeting. Before we commence proceedings, I would like to outline domestic arrangements for the meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice today, but should the fire alarms go, please vacate the buildings by the exits indicated and assemble in front of CAS, the other side of the water. This meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's website. By entering the Council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the Council. If anyone intends to record today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. Thank you. I will now commence the meeting. Item 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Joe Blackham. Do we have further apologies, please? Councillor Laney Ball. Any? Apologies from Rihanna. Okay, thank you for that. Item 2, exclusions of the public and press. There are no items on the agenda where the public and press are to be excluded. Is that agreed? Item 3, public statements and questions. We have no public questions or statements. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No, thank you. I move on to item 5, decision records from the meeting 14th of August. These have been previously circulated and are for noting only. Is that agreed? Agreed. Item 6, I will now invite Councillor Nigel Ball, Cabinet Member for Public Health, Communities, Leisure and Culture, to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Today I'm pleased to present the second Doncaster Walking Strategy. Doncaster's first walking strategy, Get Doncaster Walking, was produced in 2018 and outlined the need for Doncaster to be designed in a way that enables people to walk regularly as part of their day-to-day lives. A lot has changed in Doncaster and nationally since 2018, with the COVID pandemic, increased focus on the climate emergency and the ongoing cost of living crisis impacting on how we travel, work and engage with our local neighbourhoods and communities. By adopting this walking strategy, the ambition to make Doncaster a more accessible and attractive place for walking will sit with a wide range of stakeholders and not just the Council, including local walking groups and organisations, health organisations and the police. This is imperative to ensure the strategy is considered when making decisions across the city, not just in relation to active travel, but also planning itself, including public health and development to help the city realise its ambitions in relation to walking. The report recommendations are to endorse and adopt the Get Doncaster Walking Strategy, commit to supporting the development of the recommendations within the strategy itself, give delegated authority to the Director of Public Health and the Chief Finance Officer in consultation with the portfolio holder for Public Health, Communities, Leisure and Culture to deliver the strategy recommendations. When researching how people in Doncaster currently travel, there are areas which have low pedestrian counts. However, in recent years, there has been investment and commitment to infrastructure interventions where better active travel routes lead to increases in pedestrian numbers. The Bennythorpe route, as an example, has seen a 30% increase in pedestrians between 2021 and 2023, certainly during the months of June to November. The report recommends adaptation of the walking strategy, which will enable Doncaster to continue to develop and grow our walking aspirations in order for communities and residents to not only improve their health, well-being and environment, but also the wider environment in terms of the local economy and communities itself. It provides focus on the priorities and recommendations that the strategy has identified from the public consultation, the stakeholder engagement and existing evidence base. The strategy itself provides a position to apply for external grant funding to deliver initiatives identified within this plan. I therefore ask Cabinet to endorse this strategy today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Are there any questions or statements in respect of the plan, please? I've got a few, so I'll lead off with my questions then. And firstly, I'm just wanting to ensure that the plan dovetails in with budgets and everything else that's there, noting some of the recommendations in the plan. And I'm pleased to see someone who can answer that in respect of highways. So looking at page 49, under infrastructure, it states increased levels of footway, pathway maintenance, repairing surfaces, fixing potholes and updating surface colours and clearing debris. And they've put that down as in the medium term. So I'm requesting that we ensure that we coordinate this with highways to ensure that we meet what we're going to approve in the plan, please. And I would be interested in what percentage of the budget we're going to do to prioritise this, as these budgets are very strained. I'm quite happy to receive that information in writing afterwards, if that's helpful.
I can try my best to answer that now, Ros. So I think with this strategy and what we try and do, it's a basis to apply for external grant funding. So the ambition is that we won't be putting any pressure on existing budgets that we appreciate are already tight. I think it'll be when we kind of come in to look at interventions, we'll be doing what we've done with previous programmes delivered and kind of repairing the footways, resurfacing the roads where appropriate, new street lighting, new pedestrian crossings. So the ambition is that we will not be taking any of the existing budget, but we'll work closely with our colleagues in highways maintenance to maximise budget and resources.
Thank you for that. My next question comes under seeking to create behaviour change, and that's on page 51 under infrastructure behaviour change. And I've said, how are we actually dovetailing this with enforcement to get a proper programme to seek to change behaviour outside of schools?
So I think the strategy really is kind of giving us the bed and the basis to create these better partnerships and working. We've had trials where we received external grant funding from DEFRA to deliver school streets outside of schools. I think we're now in a position where we've got a lot of learning from them. And I think we are starting to develop better relationships internally with stakeholders that can help do that, and the kind of programme and the working groups that we're establishing. But I think this strategy sets the foundation to allow us to do that by Cabinet committing to the recommendations today. It gives us that basis to improve working relationships and deliver.
Thank you. Thank you for that. My final one, again, is behaviour change, and it's where we're saying increase enforcement, including action on pavement parking and enforcing moving traffic offences. And I want to see how we're going to ensure that we dovetail and be informed by the police that they will take action, because I myself have received several where they've said it's a local authority issue, not a police issue. Can I be assured that we are speaking to the police and getting the correct enforcement done by the right people, please?
We are doing that. Again, we're kind of establishing those working groups and looking at pavement parking. There's also new laws and new opportunities for the council to have further control over moving traffic orders that is being explored by the service area currently.
Thank you for that. So with that, is there anyone else that wants to raise anything or ask any questions, please? No, I've got no indications. Therefore, I will now read out the recommendations within the report. And that is that Cabinet agrees to endorse and adopt the Get Doncaster Walking strategy, commit to supporting the development of the recommendations within the strategy, give delegated authority to the Director of Public Health and the Chief Finance Officer in consultation with portfolio holder for public health, communities, leisure and culture to deliver the strategy recommendations. Colleagues, is that moved? Seconded? Therefore, the recommendations are agreed. I move on to item 7, which is Q1 Finance and Performance Improvement Report. I'll now ask Councillor Phil Cole, Cabinet Member for Finance, Traded Services and Planning, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I'm pleased to introduce the Finance and Performance Report for the first quarter of this financial year 2024-25 and to outline how the Council continues to deliver quality and value for money services while operating in a challenging and uncertain environment. The Council continues to be affected by the fallout of a long period of high inflation and growing pressure on services across most areas of the Council. However, at this stage, we're pleased to predict a break-even position for this financial year. Our key areas of overspend are as follows. Adult social care, due to a large number of older people being supported in care homes and increased care provided to supported living clients. Children's social care, due to the number of placements and increased average costs. The waste service, due to a number of factors including reduced trade waste income, increased recycling gate fees and lower than anticipated income from waste disposal. And finally, homelessness, due to additional costs within St Leger homes because of the high numbers of homeless placements. These overspends are currently offset by contingency budgets and one-off underspends, which is not sustainable. As such, the Council will continue to review and update projections, alongside taking necessary mitigating steps to reduce the pressures or identify offsetting underspends to improve the forecast year-end position. Despite current pressures, there is a sense of optimism of what can be achieved now that we have a new Labour government. There is no hiding from the fact that the country is in a real mess after 14 years of Conservative governments, 14 years of low growth, underinvestment in UK infrastructure, industry and public services. Public services are all overstretched and it will take years to rebuild the capacity and the quality of public services that people expect. Difficult decisions will have to be made, but we've lived with making difficult decisions for over a decade with our core government funding reduced by a quarter over that period. Under the leadership of Mayor Ros Jones, this Council has protected frontline services and supported our most vulnerable residents while ensuring we remain a financially sound, well-managed and stable Council. The current economic situation is improving but remains difficult. Inflation has reduced to 2%, but historical inflationary pressures and high energy bills are still affecting many households and businesses. For example, while Doncaster is building over 1,100 homes a year, residents who take out a new mortgage face higher mortgage rates as their old deals end. However, Doncaster's employment and wage rates are relatively stable and close to the regional average, which is a positive indicator. We continue to push forward on key mayoral priorities, including work on reopening our airport and developing our city centre, both historically engines of growth in our economy. We had a significant response of over 8,000 for our big city centre conversation. The results will inform some targeted interventions over the coming year and beyond, including to promote safety and security in our city centre. Mayor Ros Jones has already allocated additional one-off funding in order to tackle public safety head-on. Further details on this will be released in due course. This report ensures that we review areas and services where we face challenges with a mission to improve. That said, I'm pleased to report that our performance for the first quarter of this financial year remains predominantly positive. For example, targets for removal of fly tipping have been well exceeded. In our capital programme, the Council House building new build programme has been accelerated to invest £13.5 million this year, 2.5 times the original planned investment. The £165 million recorded investment in Doncaster at the end of quarter one stands £25 million above target. This included a £110 million capital investment at Arda Glass at Kirk Sandal. Other significant investments include Dorco, a new manufacturing business located in Thorn, Saul Homes developing the Bawtry Park Golf Resort facility, Victorian Plumbing taking over Victoria Plum business at Bolby, and a Severn Trent Water capital investment in Branton. Business Doncaster are working on a range of projects across our key development sites, and the investment pipeline of new enquiries is still strong, particularly from the logistics and engineering sectors. The announcement of the lease of the airport has seen an increase in the number of aviation-related enquiries. Increasing opportunity for local people with lived experience of care and support is one of our key priorities. Building on our 2023 achievements, Your Care and Support, Doncaster's 2024 local account for adult social care sets out our priorities and aims for the year. Co-produced by people with lived experience of care and support in Doncaster, it showcases what is good in terms of care and support and reflects areas that require development and which we will focus on. We have seen an increase in the number of veterans supported, 213 compared to 125 in Q4, the highest number we have ever helped. Thanks in particular to our Stronger Communities staff who worked throughout Armed Forces Week in June and engaged, identified and supported veterans throughout this period. Armed Forces Week celebrations took place throughout June, including a football tournament organised by the local reserve unit, a flag-raising ceremony led by the Mayor, a mayoral reception for veterans at the Mansion House, and the Armed Forces Day City Centre Parade and entertainment in Elmfield Park. Veteran-specific, community-led support initiatives continue throughout the city and supported by Armed Forces Link officers within the Stronger Communities Wellbeing team. In June, City of Doncaster Council signed up to the Pride in Veterans standard in support of the Fighting with Pride campaign, which strengthens our offer and makes it even more inclusive. In Q1, the number of referrals to the Your Families team has remained high, with a total of 2,651 contacts, a 59% increase compared to Q1 of the previous year, highlighting the continued demand for support in finance, housing and adult well-being, reflecting the widespread need for services across all localities. We now have a new Labour government who have committed to reset the relationship with local government, provide multi-year settlements and to end wasteful competitive bidding for government funding. The government is promoting economic growth, beginning with new targets for house building, half of which will be affordable homes. This gives us confidence about the direction of travel, but we are mindful of the dreadful inheritance the Conservatives left, that of a largely stagnant economy and a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. Difficult decisions lie ahead for both this council and national government before the rebuilding work can begin. As the council continues to deliver services amid a range of challenges, we do so supported by diligent and dedicated staff in the service of the residents and businesses of Doncaster. Doncaster is a financially well-managed council with strong leadership and plans to grow the strength and resilience of our city going forward. I commend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Colleagues, any questions or statements? No one's indicating. I'm delighted to see that this first quarter is showing a balanced budget for year end. We cannot take our foot off the pedal to ensure that we get best value for money in every service that we deliver. And being a well-managed, financially run local authority, we will continue to do this. But let's not hide. Life's not going to get any easier in these next couple of years, and therefore we will continue to monitor with diligence, but also seek to attain best value in everything we do. So with that, colleagues, if no one else has got anything, I'd just like to read out the recommendations. And that is, Cabinet are asked to approve and comment on Q1 performance and financial information, including note the requirements per the financial procedure rules detailed in Appendix A, finance profile, and Note the allocations of block budgets in capital programme detailed in Appendix A, Finance Profile, in accordance with the Financial Procedure Rules. Colleagues, is that moved?
Moving, Chair.
Is it seconded? Therefore, the recommendations are agreed. I move to item 8, which is St Ledger Homes of Doncaster Limited, Key Performance Indicators and Tenant Satisfaction Measures update for Q1 and year ended 30th of June 2024. I will invite Councillor Glyn Jones, Cabinet Member for Housing, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, before us today we have a set of papers from St Ledger Homes which include Q1 performance against key performance indicators. Also attached to the documents are a series of detailed benchmarking information which enables us to consider the performance of St Ledger Homes against the rest of the social housing sector across the country. 40 KPIs were agreed with City of Doncaster Council at the start of this financial year. 13 are tenant satisfaction measures that are required by the social regulator for housing and are measured annually. And 27 are other St Ledger Homes of Doncaster operational KPIs. I will firstly address the Q1 performance summary. As we know, amongst the 40 key performance indicators, we set St Ledger some very challenging targets. In 16 of these areas, St Ledger Homes are either meeting the target or are within an agreed tolerance of the target, and in 11 areas, St Ledger Homes did not meet the target we set. Before commenting on the areas where targets were not met, I would like to mention a couple of areas for colleagues to note. Firstly, for KPI 1, another exceptional performance on rent arrears where the target was exceeded. However, St Ledger are committed to monitoring the impact of the 53-week year for universal credit, as this may build up as the year progresses. Secondly, for KPI 5, settled accommodation at prevention stage has exceeded target due to improvements in case management, resulting in 52% outturn in June, the highest monthly figure since 2023. Additionally, there has been strong performance on KPI 7, Stage 1 complaints, with a 99.6% outturn. I will now address some of the areas where the targets were not met. KPIs 2 and 3 relate to rent loss on void properties and the time taken to re-let properties. Although not meeting target when benchmarked, St Ledger do compare favourably with other housing providers, councils and ALMOs and score above the median on all these indicated. Although St Ledger Homes are not meeting our tough targets for KPIs 2 and 3, they are in fact performing extremely well in these areas. There has been improvement on KPI 3 where performance is now within tolerance levels. Whilst this is a very challenging time, every St Ledger home standing empty is one less property we can offer to our homeless family or those on the housing waiting list, and we will continue to ensure St Ledger prioritise this critical area through a sustained focus. In relation to KPIs 4 and 5, which deal with homelessness, whilst KPI 4 is still below target, KPI 5 has improved significantly. I also want to reiterate the points I have made previously. As a council, we will continue to do all we can to assist those that are forced to live without a permanent home. Doncaster is not unique. Every council across the country is experiencing homelessness issues. As a council, we are doing far more than our statutory duties. Teams across St Leger and this council are working closely to support anyone experiencing homelessness. I need to make a point about KPI 10. Month-on-month performance remains disappointing, however it is stable. St Leger are experiencing a continued and sustained high demand for the repairs service. There continues to be a high demand on the service due to the volume of work already in trades calendars and very little immediate availability to rearrange any follow-on works or appoint works when first contacted. This often leads to work being planned beyond the required completion dates with no possibility of completing within timescale. However, in some cases, this is at the request of the tenant and can count against St Leger in terms of KPI performance. St Leger are addressing the issue by investing additional resource over the coming months to improve performance. With regards to KPI 21 and the Decent Home Standard, additional resources have been identified to deal with these actions which are being monitored by this council. I haven't addressed the performance on building safety KPIs, however, it is pleasing to see that these are meeting the target. I would like to put on record my thanks to St Leger for their continued work through incredibly difficult local and national circumstances out of their control. I ask that Cabinet approves this report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions or statements? Yes, Councillor Cole.
Yes, I just wanted to welcome this report. And although it's not one of the green indicators, I do think it's notable that yet again, the number of days, average days for reletting properties has fallen almost to 24 days. The direction of travel is in the right direction. It's moved out of the red zone, but it's an improvement, and I think that's to be welcomed. But the two things that I wanted to highlight is that the tenancy support team supported 192 people who were at risk of eviction. They sustained 190 of those tenancies, and only 2 of them, because of really high levels of debt, were eventually evicted by their landlord. And the other thing I would commend is that when our repair service attend somebody's home, in 19 out of 20 cases, the repair is completed and resolved that day. And I think that's above target, but it's also just, I think, a very impressive standard of work. It's exactly what our tenants should expect, and I'm glad that St Leger Homes are delivering.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I've got a couple of comments to make, and some of them reiterate what's already been said. So I'm delighted to see that we're managing to bring in the rents that's required as people are facing difficult life choices. I look, however, at our average days to relet, and that is getting better, and I can only commend them. But I look at the stage 1 and 2 complaints, and they are worse than target in both the areas where it's saying we need to be getting emergency repairs done and non-emergency repairs. And my question really is, are there any particular trades which is creating these repairs that's not being delivered? Because that actually correlates with the number of people dissatisfied with the service. If their repairs aren't getting done, of course, they're not going to be happy with the service they get. So is there anything else we can do by looking at different trades to bring about improvements here?
Yeah, thank you, Ross. Yes, we can, and we're already doing that. So we've moved some resource off our planned work to deal with some of the backlog in repairs. That's coming down at a significant rate. But in terms of the trade demands, there's two specific areas that are really difficult for us, and that's electrical, which we have got some real pressures around. I think we're running with 10 vacancies at this moment in time, and we have had a permanent advert out pretty much for the last 18 months, trying different campaigns to be able to secure electrical resource. We've now turned our energy to subcontractors and contractors to be able to kind of plug that gap. But as we can appreciate, that's quite an expensive route for us. So we'll be focusing our energies on recruitment and our apprenticeship programme. In addition to that, it seems quite a strange one, but it's joinery work. And this is out of the back of Decent Homes 1. Feels like a bit of a distant memory. We're now talking about Decent Homes 2, and that really does talk to us about some of the components are starting to fail. So it's not so much sticking doors and sticking drawers. This is more around requirements of things like kitchens, doors, and second fix items that are now really quite high in demand. Those put pressure on the calendars due to the time frame it takes for that activity to be completed. And clearly our joinery teams are not able to complete as many jobs. So again, we have to look towards our contractors in this to be able to support us to do just that. I think there's some positive direction for us, although the calendars are not in the greatest shape, and we'd like them to be in a much better position. Due to that increased resource that we've put on, we can see the backlog coming right down. Demand has dropped slightly. I'm not high-fiving anybody, but there is a small decline in demand. If that continues, I would forecast we'd be in a much better position as we're going into the autumn. But we're keeping a really close eye on this, Chair. And we are hoping for fair weather on the lead up to Christmas. That would put us in a much more positive position.
So noting what you've just said in the two areas of electricians and joiners, have we increased the numbers of apprentices that we're taking on in order to grow our own over the period of time?
Again, Chair, positive news on that. So we've taken on this year the highest number of apprentices that we've ever had. So that's 18 apprentices of mixed trade, which I'm sure we'll all celebrate that. Our issue is around capacity within the teams to be able to accept the apprentices. So we've currently got 56 apprentices going through their apprenticeship programme. It's having the appropriate mentors that is a real blockage for us. What's really pleasing to see is some of the apprentices that have come out of their time are also showing interest in being mentors. So it's almost completing the perfect circle on this. It's certainly our intention to increase that even further. It's fair to say we do see our apprenticeship programme as the future for our resource rather than recruitment, especially when you consider things like net zero, decent homes too, and the government's intention to build more homes. I doubt that we're going to be able to compete in the open market for trades. I think our single option on this is to grow our own, and that's the intention.
That really leads to what is the retention of the apprentices once they've come out of their trade, roughly?
Yeah, it's actually really high. We would expect it to be quite low, just with the sector performing as it is, and salaries available for trades outside of St Ledger. You would presume that would be quite a high figure, but actually the attrition rate's not high at all. We retain the vast majority of our apprentices, and clearly there's a number of reasons for that. We need post availability to be able to do that, and our latest plans do exactly that. I think we're aware we've got an ageing workforce, certainly in terms of trades. And again, just going back to the previous point, we are encouraging our trades before they leave leave something behind in the young people. Put your hand up, be a mentor, and as you leave your post behind, that person can take the post up. I think that's really the way forward for us.
Yes, Nigel.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that, Chair. Thank you very much. It's really, really positive to see, obviously, some of the numbers that you're pulling in that are an improving target, really, in getting people into training, education, and employment. Really, really good numbers there, and obviously beating the target that's been in place. I mean, just what you mentioned there, Chris, really about apprentices going through their period of training and then remaining with the organisation, remaining with St Ledger, but also potentially looking at upskilling them as well. Just reading the report, I noticed there that there's 6 residents that started external property maintenance roles at St Ledger Homes. I'm guessing that the same routeways in terms of upskilling will be afforded them as well, because this is where apprentices is concerned, really solid work, great, fantastic, but we know that particularly with adults, particularly returning to work, there is probably a role for them as well in terms of upskilling them and moving them on to develop them as individuals. So, as I say, really good news in terms of the numbers you're pulling into work, whether it's through St Ledger or other organisations or companies. But I think it's worth mentioning that there needs to be that upskilling element within those baseline roles when they get them, moving on to different, obviously, occupations within St Ledger.
Thank you for that. I therefore don't see anyone else indicating no, and therefore I will read out the recommendations within the report, and that is that Cabinet note the progress of St Ledger Homes performance and the contribution St Ledger Homes makes to supporting Doncaster Council's strategic priorities. Colleagues, is that moved? Seconded? Therefore, the recommendations are agreed. That now concludes the items of business on the agenda today. I would like to thank you all for your attendance and input, and I will now close the meeting. Thank you.